One of the things that Donald Trump has said a number of times now to try to convince people that impeaching him is a bad idea is he's been saying the stock market would crash if I got impeached. Now, it's not a crazy thing to suggest. Markets in general don't like instability. The removal of a president, or even the attempted removal of a president, is a form of instability. So it is reasonable to think, wow, if Trump were impeached and convicted for removal, the markets would absolutely crash. And Donald Trump has kept pushing this lately. He tweeted late last week, quote, if they actually did this, the markets would crash. Do you think it was luck that got us to the best stock market and economy in our history? It wasn't. So put aside for a second that most stocks are held by relatively few people, richer people. And so the level of the stock market is not the best indicator of the health of the economy. Put that aside just for a second, okay? There's a good case to be made that markets would actually do really well and might even soar rather than crash if Donald Trump were impeached. Rick Newman from Yahoo Finance makes the case for this. And Rick points out that, number one, markets have been relatively stable since the impeachment inquiry was announced. You've actually seen very few big swing days one way or the other since the impeachment inquiry was announced. That's the first sign that we should question this so-called conventional wisdom of impeachment is terrible for the markets. But Rick Newman actually says markets would soar if Trump was impeached because the things that Donald Trump has done, which tend to boost stocks. Now, this is for better or worse. This is not me saying I agree with these policies, but Trump has done tax cuts and deregulation. Very often that boosts stocks. Of course, there's an expense to that as well, which we can talk about. Those would in principle stay if Donald Trump were removed. But a lot of the bad things Trump has done would likely end. The tariffs, the xenophobia, interfering with free markets, even on things like immigration. Immigration is great for the economy. The gains from immigration, even including undocumented immigration, are far greater than the costs to the economy. Now, this all has a cost to it, right? Low wages, poor conditions for many legal and illegal immigrants. I'm not making a moral analysis here. I'm merely making an economic one for the sake of discussion. And there is a strong case to be made that if Donald Trump were impeached and removed, it would not crash the stock market the way Donald Trump is pointing out. Now, there's a bigger argument, which is if the right thing to do for legal reasons, on the basis of the evidence, for moral reasons, is to impeach a president, you do it. You don't make the calculation that in the short term, the market won't like it, so we let a president remain president who shouldn't be president. That's a separate argument. What we're talking about merely is the practicality and the logistics of the market will crash versus the market will soar if Trump is impeached. Let me give you another example. The craziness with Iran. What's bad for markets is the instability with Iran, which would probably calm down if Donald Trump was removed from office. Now, Rick Newman is also saying that if Trump were replaced with Pence, the economy would be much better off. I find Pence disgusting and it would be terrible. But the main point here that Rick Newman is making, and which I think is a valid point to make, or at least to propose, is that Donald Trump's removal would not be terrible for the economy as a foregone conclusion. And we need to challenge all of those ideas merely because they might have been accurate 20 years ago, merely because it seems to make some intuitive sense, does not mean that we should fall for it hook, line, and sinker. And more importantly, one way or the other, this is not the basis on which impeachment should be decided upon.